Welcome to episode 11 of the Light Her Project podcast, Real Women.
Real talk.
I'm Rachel Strella.
And I'm Vixen.
Thank you for tuning in today. Today's topic is mentorship for career growth and personal development. Oh, great topic. And we like to jump right into our personal experiences. So let's talk about them. For me, mentorship kind of has a special place in my heart. It was a mentor who actually encouraged me to start my business in 2010. I'd been through a string of unfulfilling jobs after college, and when she really drilled down to the common denominator, she said that she believed I might be an entrepreneur. And she noticed that my source of unhappiness kind of came from the lack of control over the outcome of my work. So I honestly never thought that I would run my own business. But I guess that's the power of a mentor. Sometimes they see things that you could never imagine.
That's very true. That's very true. People sometimes see things in you that you're like, I just know something about her, just something about her. Like that's all they know. They don't know what yet. They just know something about her. For me, it was something that I discovered what I wanted to do because I didn't want to do something.
Mm.
I When I was in high school, one of the things that they did was they'd send you out to a job, basically to showcase your skills and get you around, see what you like to do and that sort of thing. I'll never forget it. I worked for the state Department of Transportation, and the ladies there, and I remember she was like, this is what she should not have said to me. She said, "Oh, this is such a good job. You just work here for 20 or 30 years and you get a great pension and healthcare is wonderful and you come here every day and you'll be fine." I just like the thought of me working behind a desk for even 20 years was just like, I then came to like the realization to what I never ever wanted to do again in life. So that experience drove me to something. I'm like, okay, I had to look for something else. So that was how I came into finding, looking for a mentor.
Okay. That makes sense. All right. So a lot of people don't know where to start to find a mentor. So you want to share a little bit insight on what that process, looks like for someone who might be looking for a mentor?
Yes, it is all about personal relationships. It's that intuition. It's that something about that person, just like they feel something about you, you feel something about them. It's you're like, oh, I wonder how she does that. She just commands a room when she comes in, whatever it is about that person that sparks you, you're like, almost like, I want to be like them. Now, you don't actually want to be like them, but there's something about them that you want to learn. You want to know how to do that thing, whatever it is. Something, that swag, the way they speak to people, something that you want to learn. You want to be that, you want to know. And that is a feeling that you get. You can't really search for a mentor. It's all about being in the right place and getting that feeling and seeing that person. And then you can start to talk about um, being together as a mentor. So once you get that feeling of that person, then you can start to pursue. And the question is, how do you do that?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Wow. Well, I agree with you on the feeling, and it wasn't something I'd actually thought about till you articulated it. I've always thought it kind of depends on the mentor you're looking for. I mean, some might be looking for career advancement, others might just want to expand their professional skills, and some mentors are even helpful for personal stages in your life. Sometimes a great mentor can be a combination of all of these things, and that's what makes mentorship really special. I think if you're looking for someone to guide you in your career, one piece of advice that I was given before is, find someone who does what you wish to aspire to be or do, and ask them to mentor you. And you may even find someone within your own workplace if you're looking to grow within your job. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities. I agree with you about relationships too, because I always recommend asking friends or colleagues. I know professional development groups are another good source. In fact, that's how I found my first mentor, which was through a female executive group called CPATHY. So, and now, ever since the world really turned virtual, there are also these online groups and communities you can join, and some of them do offer mentorship opportunities. But you ask a good question, though. How do you go about that next step? You have insight on that?
I do. Um, I think to piggyback on what you said also is that what you're interested in doing, the type of mentorship you're looking for, that is what's going to spark your interest. If you're not looking to learn to ride a bike, I don't care if that person can ride a bike on one wheel with one hand standing on top of their head. It's not going to pique your interest because you're not interested in that. But whatever you're interested in learning, that's going to pique your interest when you see someone else really good at it or the style that you're looking for. So, no matter what the reason is for finding that mentor, that's what's going to pique your interest in how they do it. So, that's going to draw your attention. So, how you do that is once they pique your interest, then you need to be where they are. For instance, say you want to be a doctor and you never ever don't just go to the hospital when you're sick, volunteer. That sort of thing. So then you'll be in that environment and get to see who piques your interest at what it is that you want to do or what it is or how you want to be or how you want to live your life or that kind of thing. That type of person is going to pique your interest. But if you're not around them, you know you'll never you'll never get that way.
No, you're absolutely right. That's really great advice. I find sometimes you just need to be at the right place at the right time. Um, wow. We had a question from a group who talk about some of our personal mentors and, what's the best thing a mentor ever taught you? Wow. I had to really think. I've had a lot of mentors over the years. There's two that really stuck out for me. One, her name was Maria, and she's the one who helped me find my, business and path. And one thing that she taught me was that everyone is a potential customer. And I really believe that because whether you realize it or not, we're showcasing our personal brand every second of every day. If you're having a bad day and you fly off on somebody in the grocery store, well, probably not likely that person's going to want to work with you in any capacity. And then I've been so lucky. I had a really great encounter with a mentor. You may have heard of the name Jeffrey Gitomer. He wrote the little red book of sales, little black book of sales. I connected with him because he wrote one of the first books on social media called Social Boom. And we connected on LinkedIn, and it turns out that the Hilton is one of his customers. So he would come to Harrisburg area, often. Now he taught me something completely different. And he held nothing back. He said, "All right, I got three pieces of advice for you. One, get out of bumfuck. Two, make your name your brand. And three, double your rates and fire half your clients." Now that was a bold mentor. I'll say that he lit a fire under my ass on some things, and I did do about 2/3 of those within reason. But sometimes you need people like that to get you out of your own thinking, and it was the right advice for me at the right time because it was about a year into my business and I was feeling a little stagnant. So it was the right advice for me at the right time.
Well,
What
I
about you?
totally agree with him, with especially about the rates. I mean, you are worth as soon as when as you grow, as you get better, and you're worth so much more than you were before. And a lot of people are afraid. They're afraid to actually charge what they're worth. They're charging the same thing that somebody just started is charging. That kind of thing. So I totally agree with him on that. Absolutely. I can't say that enough. So he was a good guy. Can't complain.
So, what about you? Do you have any mentors that you recall that gave you any great advice?
I do. I do. Although he didn't know it and he died before he even gave it to me. So here's my thing. It is the Milton Hershey story. So I worked for Hershey for, I think, around 17 years. And what was so inspiring to me that he taught me, like I said, he died years before I ever met, is the story that really, he failed so many times, bankruptcy, like over and over. His recipe, I want to say his chocolate recipe was like 200 times before he made the right one. Like something like he failed over and over again, but he was so persistent. It only takes one time to get it right. And that time that you get it right, you run with it. So you never give up. Never, ever. I don't care. I can fail. I can do it wrong a million times. And guess what? I don't care. I don't care. Because you know what? He inspired me to the respect where I can say, you know what? I'll just do it again. It might be right this time.
Yeah.
So he really did, even though I never met him, not alive. I only know his story, and he inspired me to do what I do. So the fact combined that I did not want to ever work at a test job. So I knew that. I knew that if I was persistent in what I did and got the best, the best at my craft,
Yeah.
and then I can charge what I want, I can do what I want and work when I want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very smart. I've heard it said that a lot of people give up right before they have that success.
Yes.
Oh,
I've
um,
seen that. I've seen that. Digging the mine, digging the hole, and the gold is right on the other side of this wall, but you just don't make that last dig.
yeah, it's really unfortunate. Um, well, let's talk about characteristics. You have a good mentor. I know the obvious one is the ability to listen,
Hmm.
and obviously you want somebody who has life experience.
Right.
Um, I think for me, one of the things that I found that was helpful are people who aren't afraid to tell you what you don't want to hear. It is so easy to have somebody pacify you, and you obviously want someone who's supportive, but sometimes it's that thing that you weren't expecting that might be a little hard, that constructive feedback. But I feel like that's definitely a quality of a good mentor, because you need to grow, and so you need people to sometimes tell you something you don't want to hear.
You know, if you are not uncomfortable, you're not going to grow.
Mm,
If you're already comfortable in what you're doing, that means you already know how to do it. So that's not growth. If someone is mentoring you, you're trying to learn something, or whatever you're trying to do, you're trying to grow. You can't grow and be in the same place at the same time. They can't coexist. So I think someone who, I'm pretty much a straight shooter, and I know everyone cannot take that.
mm,
So I like to preface what I'm going to say. I will ask you, um, do you really want to know? Which is about to tell, that's telling you I'm about to give you
yeah,
something
yeah.
bad. Um, but you have to be prepared for that in order to grow.
Mhm.
So that is a great key for a mentor. It's also a great key for a mentor, though, if someone is going to catch you when you fall.
Mhm.
If you know that someone is going to be there, because soon enough now the net will be removed. But the first couple of times, you've got to understand that someone's going to be there if you fall. But then there's going to be a time you got to tell them, now you're going to do this on your own, because you know that they're good enough. They just don't know that they're good enough. So that's when they have to fall, fail, face plant.
Mhm.
And they only have to do that once or twice because you know they could do it anyway. They just didn't know. So when
Right.
a mentor does that for you and not hold your hand at the end of that growth, that's when you can spread your wings and keep flying.
Hmm. You're absolutely right. Well, one of the questions that have come up, discuss mentorship from the perspective of both a mentor and a mentee. I've been fortunate enough to have been in both positions. I could say I really enjoyed giving back, but I think that a part of me erred in some ways because I think I may have encouraged my first mentors or mentees to be
Hmm.
more like me or follow my path, which wasn't necessarily the best direction. I think I was overzealous in the excitement that I had. And I realize now, and I think it's helped me become a better mentor, particularly with my team. I also think that you gain so much from the relationship as a mentee as you do the mentor.
Hmm.
I really believe that. And any mentor I've had has felt the same way. I believe that we should always keep seeking mentorship and opportunities to provide mentorship. Like you said, I mean, learning never stops if we want to grow.
I have had the opportunity to be a mentor, but I've actually, very shortly into it, I really did stop doing that because it just may have been the luck that I've had because the people that have come to me, like I said, I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to get you to where you want to go, but I'm going to tell you because I'm going to tell you when you're not doing it right. You can go any direction you want to. You do not have to be like me, but you need to learn the skills. You don't have the skills, you can't make your own little thing. You make your own little reputation, your own little, you can't unless you have to have the basics. So I have found I've just had bad luck where people wanted to be pacified and they did not want to grow. They just wanted to say, good job. But that's not going to help anybody.
Yeah. Some of the hardest lessons I learned were, that first year or two of business. And I remember, I'd make mistakes even though my mentor would tell me, and she would say, "What did I tell you? What did I tell you?" And I remember being pissed off. I remember being like, "Whatever, you don't support me." She wasn't wrong. I just wasn't ready to hear it.
Mm.
It takes a lot of growing up, especially when you run your own show. You really have to get out of your own way, and you're only going to do that with people that truly have your best interests in mind. You have to listen to them, you know.
I have a young lady that, well, she's in her 40s, so I'm still calling you guys young ladies. I have a young lady that I'm working with actually right now who knows she's in her own way. So we are still together right now, but since she knows and realizes she's in her own way, this may turn out well.
Yeah, yeah, you have to recognize that. You can't be in denial, right? Well, let's talk about what we're seeing. So, there's a gentleman who I'd never heard of until recently, Ari Raskar, and he is a founder and CEO of a property company. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and he shared a video on TikTok, and he says that mentors can be anyone who teaches you something. It doesn't have to be a boss or colleague. He actually said he personally learns a lot from YouTube. He thinks a mentor can be your favorite author or even someone you've actually never met in real life, but someone you can learn from. He suggested taking classes, for something you want to learn. So that's an interesting take. What do you think about that?
Well, I guess I'm a product of that. Like I said, Milton Hershey, I've never met him
Yeah.
at all. It was only his actions and his stories and things that he did that were documented, thank goodness, that I was able to learn from that. And I also agree with the mentorship. You're a book reader. I'm a book on tape listener. And I've had some really eye opening revelations from listening to some books that give me different perspectives on things. So, and I've learned a lot from that. So I agree with that.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever articulated it this way. I never thought of a book or an author or somebody I've never met to be a mentor, but it makes sense when you think about it.
I
Uh,
mean, the books, I mean, I think maybe the books on tape are a little different than reading the book because it feels like someone is talking to you.
True.
It feels like they're right there and they're just in the next room. Maybe they could possibly be in the next room and talking to you. You can hear them in the next room. So it's like it's more lifelike as opposed to reading the book. So you hear a voice, you hear a person, that person is talking with you. So maybe that's the feeling that I get that's different than reading the book.
That makes a lot of sense because I don't consume content that way. But what you're saying makes total sense. Yes. Right. All right. Well, another thing that we saw, there was an article that was shared on LinkedIn about trends in mentorship. And one of the things it talks about too is the difference between a coach and a mentor, which is a really good thing to talk about. And I've had both. And coaching is usually focused on a specific goal or a skill, and it involves providing feedback or guidance. Mentoring is a little different. I mean, that's more long term and holistic, and it involves sharing knowledge, experience, and wisdom, and also fostering personal and professional development. So, the article talks about with today's technology evolving, it's easier to leverage technology and digital platforms such as apps and podcasts, webinars, and I agree with this. I'm a member of a peer CEO group called Visage International, and they do have a face to face component. We meet once a month, but we also can connect with other members worldwide online. And they frequently have webinars and focused discussions in certain areas of leadership where you can connect with people at a different sort of setting and level. And so, I think one thing that did come out of the pandemic, was that we are very well connected now with technology. And I mean, you have just about any type of coach or mentor you'd want at your fingertips.
That's so true. We got slammed with that technology. If you didn't know what Zoom was, you know what it is now. That sort of togetherness, even if you didn't want it, it is here. Yes, as far as being together and noticing what a coach and a mentor different, how they differentiate, it is so much more personal to
Mm-hmm.
be a mentor than a coach. A coach is making me uh, a better esthetician.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at your technique. I'm going to, help you with that. I'm going to correct you. You're going to demonstrate, that type of skill, whatever your skill is going to elevate that.
Yes.
Whereas that mentorship is an all around, it's not, it may be your skill too, but it's an all around you improvement. It's an
Yes.
all around mental improvement. It's an all around you, whole you improvement.
I totally agree with I do. And that was what's great about, especially when I was starting a business, having a mentor, because there are different areas of the business that obviously I need coaches for, but I needed a mentor to really help me holistically, with what the heck I was even doing, and she had started, businesses, herself, and had had success in that arena. So it was very helpful for me just to learn more of that macro type of thing because I really had no clue. I was winging it, and I mean, there are business coaches that are focused on things like entrepreneurship, but I felt like for me at that time, a mentor was a much better fit for me and helping me sort of navigate the ins and outs of the business.
That type of approach was better for you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Some people understand themselves that way. Some people, the thing about it is, I think if you're looking for one of these things, you have to understand what's going to make you happy and what you're missing.
Mm.
You have to be missing something. If we're going to mentor you, or if someone's going to mentor you, you have to know what you want your outcome to be. I love to start with the outcome.
Yes.
You know, um, don't just go through it and then where you end up is where you end up. What goal do you have? What is
Yeah.
your end goal? We can't get you there if we don't know where you're going. We can
Right.
we can walk for miles and like, okay, so where are we going? We might be walking in the wrong direction.
You know,
So
I
go
can relate.
understand.
Well, one thing I hear from especially younger folks is they don't know where they're going. I mean, they know where they'd like to be, but they have no clue how they're going to get there. But I do find a lot are still just really unsure about, and that's where a mentor is helpful too, though. Sometimes it's zeroing in on what it is you're actually trying to accomplish in life. And a lot of us haven't given it a heck of a lot of thought, to be honest. I mean, purpose is just goes well beyond your career. I mean, it's very important, but yet not everybody knows what that looks like. So I'll say that I think a mentor, if you're feeling just stuck in even figuring out where you want to go, it's helpful to give that perspective.
I actually saw online that they had, believe it or not, uh, there's tests that help you to figure out what you want to be. That's one test. There's tests to figure out um, who you're looking for, like a mate. There's tests for everything is what I'm basically saying. So I'm sure there's a test that can help to guide you before you start. It'll at least give you, so in other words, if you want to be a doctor, so you know not to start over at the lawyer's office.
Yeah,
At least you have an idea that you can go over to the hospital. I mean, you might end up being a nurse, but at least you know you like healthcare, you
right,
know. So
right.
it can help to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So you're not completely off.
No, it makes total sense. I didn't know what I was looking for, when I had my first mentor. I just knew I was very unhappy in my career. And it really took that her figuring out that common denominator of all these jobs and what it was that she was noticing that was missing. And sometimes that's just helpful too once you recognize a pattern and having a mentor help you recognize that pattern. So, well, we're coming to the end of the podcast. So, Vixen, is there anything you'd like to add about this topic?
I think we pretty much covered it. I hope. Um, and you know what? It's not just young. I was going to say young people, but it's not just young people because now people are going into a second career or a different career, or they're changing for whatever reason, divorce or whatever the case is. So when you start, you want to just make sure that you have a direction where you want to go, and if you don't, please find one of your tests online and at least so you don't end up in the lawyer's office when you need to be at least in the hospital. So you want to have the right at least realm where you're going, because if you find the wrong mentor, you're just going to waste your time as to
True.
where you're going, because you'll end up back where you're supposed to be eventually, but you'll just waste a lot of time doing it.
I think I say, you might be surprised how many opportunities there are for mentorship in small ways. I sometimes rely on my friends just for guidance and advice because it gives me perspective. So I would say never be afraid to ask for guidance or help. I mean, the worst anyone can say is no, and that's okay. You got to keep trying. If you want to grow, it's there. You just got to find the right people at the right time. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Light Her Project podcast. We're wrapping up the 11th episode and we're excited for the next one. We're going to actually be talking about entrepreneurship. So I'm very happy about that. You can follow the conversation online with our hashtag. So in the meantime, keep it real women
With real talk.